G'day, Skyfarers. It is AOS Coach. He's back live. It's been a couple of weeks as I've run a grand tournament and have a few things got to sort out in life. But we are talking all things Kharadron Overlords. I've cleared the Sky decks, and I'm joined by Loïc Gosselin-Delort. I think I got it close. And Loïc in grand tournament, grand clash that had about 110, 120 players, which massive roster, some very good players playing, and you were in the top 10. You went 4-1 in 8th place, if I remember correctly, with right. Kharadron Overlords, which probably would have caught a few people off. So I guess I'm going to talk to Loïc about what worked, how on earth he went 4-1 and podium, top 10 kind of at a big tournament. I want to know about White Dwarf. I know recently you've had a White Dwarf supplement and there's a few extra rules, and really just get a kind of, understand this spell in the bottle. And I was going to try to make like a funny joke. I know how spell in the bottle works. I was going to try to make a joke, but I butchered half of it. But Loïc, before we get into that, introduce yourself, anything you want to say, and welcome to the channel.
Well, thank you. I'm just playing Kharadron since V1, I'd say. Like, our players start at the start when they were very not good, and nothing was great about the War Scroll. And I stay with them even when they were not good. So now I think I'm going pretty well with what they got. So.
I mean, like, again, to go within the top 10, 4-1 at a major tournament with some very, very good players on the roster, I think you've done very well. You remind me of a local close friend of the channel, Alexander Cron, who played KO in first edition. He played it in second edition when you weren't very good. He's gone through the highs and the lows and the changes and just the love of KO. And by the way, you've obviously got a new model coming soon. This new Derek Skyfaring person looks pretty cool. I think the Aether cast are going to try to understand what exactly this War Scroll is going to do. We haven't seen it just yet. But what got you into KO?
I think it's the fantasy about having like boats riding in the sky and like just everything and shooting like what everyone will have to want to wall, because like you don't have to play against an opponent. You play against his deployment and you see if it passes. And if it passes, go well. And if you miss your dice, then it's pretty much game over. But that's like I risk, I reward, and I like that a lot.
It's interesting. You're right, because it is very high risk, high reward. You're either going to win and you win well, or you lose and, like a good ironclad being shot from the sky, you just crash and burn very quickly. There's no middle ground with KO, it seems.
No. It's pretty hard to come back from a game that you lost on the first turn. It's very hard.
It's powerful, right? Like KO can come from the sky. You shoot off those key things, those key threats. You move around the board. It's hard to pin you down sometimes with the fly high shenanigans. There's some really cool things, but it's a very technical army and one that takes a steep learning curve to understand, right? Because it doesn't. And I always try to recommend people not to pick up KO in their first army unless they really want to. I'm not going to talk anyone out of picking a faction, but it plays such a different set of rules to Age of Sigmar that it doesn't play the traditional objectives. They don't play the traditional movement. You don't play the traditional magic and combat. And like you're playing a very, very different game.
Yeah, very. In deployment, you just corner and you see what the opponent do, and if he has an opening, you go for it. Like, you don't need to make your way to the enemy. You can just teleport 9 inches from him and take the opportunity to do some good damage. And
you're playing 4D chess. You're playing 4D chess because you've got to be thinking about other different moves and looking at the board very differently, because you're not restricted to moving up the board 4 inches, playing that run roll, and all that. You can just like.
Yep, and you still need to screen a lot, because if you get caught by something, you're gonna die immediately. So with this army, you need yes, you can teleport everywhere, but you need to teleport in a good place where like not all of the army is gonna shoot at you if they're still alive. So you don't teleport right in the center of the army, because you're gonna take all of it. So you go in the corners, you pick up a part of the army and go from there.
It's really hard to play against you as well. Like, where do I deploy and how do I try to like hold you off? And,
Yeah.
thinking about screening you away. So trying to keep you outside of those 9-inch bubbles, but then also some of those weapons extend far greater than 9 inches. So just because I
Yeah.
block you out 9 doesn't mean I'm going to stop you from shooting. So there's a lot
No.
of
Yeah.
a lot of thinking when it goes up against KO, which as a player, you need to understand those threat ranges, understand how to maximize the tools because you are really playing with a scalpel.
Yeah. And you need to learn the army of the adversary more than your own army, because you need to know what is going. I have to die because you don't cannot kill everyone in one go. So you need to kill the important targets and then move out when you're done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's very much a scalpel. You look at your opponent and go, right, I really need to pull this linchpin out. I see, Techless in the backfield. I see, a particular set of, models that are going to do me damage, mortal wounds. They're going to be the ones that are going to charge up the board. I need to remove them as quick as possible and really just concentrate often my power to take them down.
yep, that's exactly it. It's like if you missed what our plan was, if you roll bad dice, then you need to pray that you're not getting double turn, and because if you get double turn, it's finished. You cannot return from a game.
Which is funny because at the same time, if you double turn me, it can be really
Yeah,
punishing.
it's gonna be the
If you
same.
Yeah.
You're gonna
And
die.
usually, well, it's probably worse because if you've dropped from the sky, you've shot, and then you're not restricted to the 9 inches, you can now move up, and now everything's in range, even your short range damage. So,
Mhm.
that can be often punishing enough.
Yeah, that's why I like a lot to start at second if I have the opportunity, because with that you can have a possibility to double turn, or you can make it so like you never get double turn. If you always let the turn to the enemy, you cannot get double turn yourself, and you're gonna always be able to retreat when it's your turn. And with now allowed with unleash L, you need to know what is gonna charge with on the boat, because it's probably gonna get damaged a lot by this unleash L.
Well, that's a good segue actually, because how have you found third edition? Because third edition is very hammer.
Yep.
There's a lot of monsters. There's a lot of incentives rewarding monsters. There's a lot of mortal wound shooting.
Mhm.
These are all things you're not very good at. You've got no
No.
monsters. I mean, you've got behemoth boats, but you
Yep.
don't have monsters.
They cannot
You
do
don't
anything. They don't get bonus points. They just cost a place on the battalion. Like
you don't have the tools. So how have you found? And I don't want to like doom and gloom this. Again, you're doing well. Other people are doing well. But how have you found Kharadron Overlords in third edition? And what are some of the considerations that you've had to have in order to build a good list and play well?
it's hard to kill like a big monster or hero when you start at a 3+ save with the finest hour and all of defense, because you're pretty much -1 around all of boards. So like you need to bait the all of defense of the enemy. So you start by shooting an enemy unity, and then when he's gonna pop all of defense, you go to another one. Like do not waste your shot on something that like you won't die. But with like the redeployment and the only shell, it benefits like Kharadron a lot, because he can drop at 9 inches and now he's gonna move and redeploy. So like he's not gonna catch you as easily as he was before. And with only shell, you're gonna deal enough damage before he's gonna hit you. So you can take a lot of pressure from the unity.
Yeah, that's interesting actually when you think about that, because you're right. Like chasing and pinning down KO can be really tough as an opponent. And then with a redeploy, obviously you can roll a 1 and it doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything. But I mean, it could be the difference between a successful and unsuccessful charge. But in most cases, you can, get out of there. And if someone does charge you, then you're going to get an opportunity to shoot your models, and you've got some good shooting.
yep,
It's just, but as you mentioned, and I think it's probably one of the other challenges is that you don't have a lot of high rend.
no,
A lot of it's rend 1, and in this hero hammer, finest hour, all out defense, mystic shield,
pretty hard.
save stacking meta.
That's why you need to pick like the weakest one. You cannot pick the hero that's gonna do his damage. You need, if he's buffing his hero like a lot, you need to kill all of the other thing that's gonna take the points. So like he's only alone, and you just can teleport away from him and never get hit by this one. So, Like if there's like an Archeon in front of you, I won't be able to kill him. Maybe if I get a double turn, then I will try it. But if I can't have the double turn, like I won't even shoot at him. It's not doing anything to him. So may as well kill
Aaron,
the trash.
yeah, exactly right, exactly. And Aaron Craig pointing out an interesting interaction: stand next to impassable terrain, redeploy 2 inches, and then laugh as if you can't be charged anymore. So I think the key there is like you're playing with movement and
Yeah,
you're really playing with the extra tools that probably work in your favor. But at the same time, heroic actions like what
I only get
heal.
CPs or
Yeah,
healing.
exactly right.
But my hero is not getting hit a lot because they're in the boat. So if my boat get hit, I I lose already. So I cannot let that
Exactly.
happen. Like I need
And
to have
you,
my boat alive.
yeah, yeah. And you don't have like monstrous actions,
Nope, I don't have
rampages
anything.
as well.
Nope. And I cannot do a monster takeover battle tactic because I don't have any monsters. So I only have 5 battle tactic. And killing the warlord all the time is pretty hard because when you kill the warlord, he's gonna fire sour and all defense. So that one is a really tough one to do too.
Well, the good news is, we're recording like days previously from Games Workshop had announced General's Handbook 2023 or Part 1. So it sounds
Yep.
like there's going to be 2 seasons. I missed the live stream because it was 2 o'clock in the morning, but it sounds like we're going to have 2 seasons. It'll be 6 months each. And it sounds like this upcoming season is going to reward a lot more battle lines. So save stacking, putting lots of monsters on the table, lots of hero hammering may be kind of coming to an end as more people look to take advantage of the incentives of whatever battle line is coming up. So we don't know just yet, but we can assume there's probably going to be more troops on the table. If there's more troops on the table, it means there's going to be less really high armor saves, and maybe your
Yeah,
tools are going to work a bit more
easier to
because you've
work.
got a lot of, yeah.
I got a lot of shooting, so if there's not a lot of save, I can shoot everyone.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on the announcement? Were you excited about moving away from the monster meta?
Yeah, I was because I cannot play with the monster meta, so like if I can go away from it, like it only can benefit me because I will get something in return. I wasn't able to do anything with the monster, so now with battle line I can do something. Like depending on the where they're gonna do it, but I have a chance to do something good with that.
And we've also got like Nighthaunt coming back. We've
Yeah,
got Daughters of Cain coming back. So you're likely to see some improvements to Witch Elves. So you might see more bodies like Sisters of Slaughter or Witch Elves. You're probably going to see more Ghosty Boys on the table, which, yes, they can all rend, but you've got a
they
lot
only
of,
have a 4 up maximum, so it's not that
yeah.
bad. Like and 1 up is way more difficult than a 4 up that I cannot reduce. So,
Yeah. I mean, you're relying on what your Sky Cannons and those like one
and I
shot
don't have
or
a lot of them.
D3.
Yeah,
You cut through and then they heroic heal, which is like, why do I even bother?
yeah, that's why I just don't kill them when they're too buffed up. I don't take care of them, man. I'd kill the rest. Because if they're only this one hero good, then you won't be able to take like the 5 other objective on the map. So that's why I'm playing the game of movement and killing the least important target. Or when they're a buffer, I just kill them.
Yeah, and that can help, like, as you said, pull out all that defense and you try to bait out some of those, you look like you're going to shoot here. They put out, finest hour, all that defense type of thing. Cool. Well, then you'll reprioritize and, you won't be so fixated because, as you said, you've got to maximize what you've got.
Yep, exactly.
Are there any particular units that you've really enjoyed in third edition? If I was coming over from let's say my KO has been sitting in the shelf for the good 8 months, and I'm now thinking about pulling it out. I haven't touched it since second edition. Are there any units now that are really good? They've kind of glowed up, or some things that maybe weren't good last edition that now are reconsidering?
I'd say the Argon is a big one. It's still alive a lot of the time, and it brings all of the thing can bring into him. So, like, is the reason why I can keep playing if all the rest is dead, because you can drop some guy off, go to another place. So I only have map control with this one, and the new admiral too is like a pretty big piece. With his munition, like that can either take out the wards of one unit or giving +1 runs to the Skyfarers. So that's like compensating for the rest of like my not good run. Like one time in the game, I can kill something like with a good save.
Is Brock good yet?
No,
Come
he's not.
on, Brock.
No,
Oh, Brock.
he's way too overpriced still. Yeah, and the other is like he less get less points in like the V3, so he's like you're gonna take a cake him because he do the same thing as Brock, and he make the Balloon Boys battle line too. So
And
gonna
he's locked to one of the sky ports, isn't he?
yeah, and I think it's Baraknar. It's the one with Thunderers and Battle Line. It's I am never playing that one. I always play Zelfin for the movement in the hero phase and dropping the spell portal there because for me it's like the best card part that there is yet with the movement in hero phase.
What about the other sky ports? Are there other good ones, or are you thinking like Barak Zilfin is just the best right now?
I'm playing Barak Zelfin, and if I'm playing something else, it's a custom skyport. I don't play any others because I with the custom one I don't have force artifact and force commentary, so I can rank whatever. Because like even the artifact in Barak Zelfin is not that good, and if there was not the movement in your phase, I will just take something else. Can take up an artifact force, nothing. So,
Yeah, I think I like the ability to do the custom skyports purely because when you look at the amendments and the footnotes and the articles, there's definitely ones that you want to have in your
yep,
faction. But if you go with Barak Mornar or one of the other
mm,
different ones, you're kind
can
of
choose.
locked in.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't choose, and it's like, well, if it doesn't meet my needs, then why not kind of build my own code? And Raphael, we will go to the list. Absolutely, we'll actually go to two lists. We'll go to sorry, we've got asked one. Definitely, we'll talk about lists. One of the things that I want to talk about, and if you're new to the channel, one of the things that we try to do here is talk about the theory and understand the decisions before we get to the lists. Because I can grab a list and go, cool, I can run the list, but how do you make the most of it? What's the decision tree? And in a couple of months' time, if the General's Handbook increases or decreases the points in KO, well, then how
the
do I
go changed.
restructure my correct? So
Yeah,
how do I tweak it and understand the logic behind a list? And I think that's a really critical skill and part of the channel. But definitely, we'll go through two lists. We've got one list at Grand Clash, the 4-on-1 list, and then one that you're playing around with at the moment. So we'll kind of get some understanding.
yep.
Before we get to the rules, I have one other burning question, or two actually. What isn't KO good at? Like, if I'm going to play KO, what do I need to worry about, or what are the things that I need to consider? Maybe trying to fill in those gaps.
It's the most important thing is the armor stacking. Like you cannot if someone stacks one personage, you need to go another way. You cannot stay on him because you're gonna just waste all of your shot on this one and not even killing him. So that's the biggest weakness like of all. And you don't have a lot of model too, so you need to kill the guys on the objective because otherwise, like with the boat, you only get 2 points on the objective. The guys in it doesn't count, so you need to kill what was there and then take the objectives. So that can
So,
be tough, but with like the power, firepower that they have, they can do it. But if the enemies cannot let you on the 9 on the objective, like they stay on the 3 circle on the objective, that you cannot touch it. So you need to charge them to get the objective. So you need to for you to shooting to let some alive to be able to charge after. So it's
mhm.
a lot of things like to take in consideration. Like when shooting something that keep an objective, you don't want to overkill it because you need to charge to get it.
Sometimes you do see people get trigger happy where they just want to delete the unit and then
Yeah,
they realize, oh, I needed to charge, or if I just keep one or two models in, then I could go in, drop some bombs, do some things, and then claim the objective. So it's a really good shout because you're right. You don't have the bodies. You're not going to play the objective game. You're not going to, easily delete that hero on a 2-up armor save or a 3-up armor save. You've really got to make smart decisions. And again, it comes back to just how you look at the game and not get too far ahead.
yeah. You need to think of your every move. You cannot like just shoot it because you want it dead. You you want it dead, but you still want some of them alive to make your move.
Yeah. What about the prime hunters and the the priority targets and the prime hunters? So KO at the moment is not either of them. So none of your units are listed as priority targets. So you're not giving away extra VP. At the same time, you're not getting extra VP. So if people haven't seen it, if I kill something, let's say long strikes, for example, I can get an extra victory point for them. But if I'm like Gloomspite Gits, then I get even more for being a primary hunter army. How is it played with KO? Because you're not a prime hunter, and none of your things are giving away extras unless you obviously ally them in.
Yeah, it's just some extra points because like you're gonna go against an army that use these units, and when you can kill them, it's gonna be extra point free because you cannot give any, so you just get more points. So it's good for you. I'm happy with that. I thought like the Ironclad was gonna be on this list because it was always taken by every Kharadron players. So I was sure it was gonna be there, but no, they don't have any Kharadron on this list.
It seems to be more of the problematic units, things
Yeah,
like your Mega Gargants,
yeah, the
things
mega,
like your
the meta unit for men. Yeah,
correct, your Sentinels, your Bow Snakes, your Fulminators, your Stormdrake Guard, Marathi, those types of things are on the list. So if you happen to shoot them off and you remove them from the table, you're going to get extra victory points. And if they're reinforced, you get even more victory points. So has it changed any of your games? Have you noticed that those extra victory points have helped you swing from what could have been a loss, a couple of months ago into a win?
I know because each of my game, it's like always like I smashed it or I get smashed. So it's not 1 or 2 points that gonna change the games. I never went to a game like with 1 point difference, and it was the primary target that determines it. I it's more points, but because in this tournament it was like it was what points? It was on 20 points. It was not like just a victory and a defeat. So you can finish like 15-5. So you can get more points with the primary unit, but it's still gonna be a win like either way. You just can get 1 more points out of the victories.
Yeah, and I think for anyone who doesn't quite know what Locke's saying, you've got two different you've got two primary tournament systems. There's a lot of different variations. If you go to a tournament, it might be ranking like total victory points. So the more victory points you claim, the higher up you're going to kind of rank yourself, especially when you're going like 3 wins, 4 wins, who's at top, who's at the bottom. Or you've got these other systems called 20 and 0. So basically there's a differential. So depending on the points difference between you and your opponent, I might get 19, you get 1. Or if it's a much tighter game, it could be like 12-8. So whatever it is, the total. But Grand Clash was the 20 and 0 system. So probably the differential might have even brought you a little bit closer to the middle. But I guess I'm hearing with KO,
No, I
it's
still
like
got some good points. Like I got 2 20-0s and like a 16-4. So and it's 2 16-4 and 2 20-0. So it's not that bad. But my defeat, I still got 6 points from this. So that's what's bring like I feel like this thing is good for that. Even when you're lost, you can still get some points. If you lost 11-9 by like 2 points, you still do some points. You don't just like get 0 points. So that's like what's good about this one.
Yeah, I like it. I do like the system. There's a lot to work on, but I do like the system.
It's hard to balance it, like the brackets of points, but like when you get figured out, it gets closer match because if you win 20-0, you won't go against someone that win, but 11-9. So you go out against another one that do 20-0. So
Do you find with the last question, I want to bring up the rules and I want you to kind of give me some thinking behind the rules. But do you find with the primary hunters, so the priority targets and the primary hunters, let's just talk priority targets because prime hunter is not for you. So it's not for you. With the priority targets, do you notice that it changes who you shoot off the table? Or has it always been, I see dragons, I want to take them down. I see long strikes, I want to take them down.
it depends on the target because in the dragon, I'm not always shooting them if there's the long strike. Because the long strike is like way easier to kill and it gives the same amount of points. So like with 1 point, I just got to kill 3 longbow, so like 6 wound 4 up plus. And for a dragon, I need to kill 2 dragon with 9 wound 3 ups. So I will shoot the crossbow any day. So it's
Yeah.
really dependent on the target still, that giving the points.
So it's not like you're seeing a priority target on the table
No,
and you get like victory point blood and you're like, I've got to go kill
no,
it because I want the extra VPs. It's still about the decisions on the table. It's still about picking your battles. And if it happens to be the thing that you want to kill, cool,
it's
I
good.
get extra points.
And and it's easier to screen from the dragon than from the long strike. So because the long strike they just shoot at 30 inches, you cannot do anything about that. So I shoot them first, and I'm trying after to stay away from the dragon.
How do you handle dragons, by the way? Because dragons have become very popular. I
Yeah,
mentioned I ran a GT literally like 3 weeks ago, and there was a lot of dragons. People love the dragons, whether they're just allies and people run two in their cities, a Sigma or some type of
yeah.
other faction, or they're running a whole army of dragons. How have you found that goes with KO?
It's pretty odd. I went against a dragon army, and I win 20-0, but there was only 4 dragon and 6 crossbow. And he went for the first turn and he tried to charge my stuff, but I was screening, so he get like only 2 dragon on my ironclads, and he killed like my bone boys. So I killed one in melee, and he did not kill my ironclad, and he lived like on 11 wounds. So at my turn, I just heal him up. I killed the dragon, and after I double turn, heal my boat, fly high, and finish the rest of these armies. So like it's pretty hard because there's a lot of wound with good save. But if you can like put all of your army in it, I still feel you can kill 4 dragon in one go in KO.
Yeah, they can really punish you, especially with like the nitroconus and some of the
Yeah,
abilities that allow them to like double shoot or be able to charge up the board and like get into your face really early. So again, it kind of comes down to leveraging movement. I think those types of things you spread out your army, knowing that if they've got like a unit of
yeah,
4, they go one area. Cool, I've still
yeah.
got half my army on the other side.
That I did not do that this one. I just corner camp one of the corner, and I have my company behind like in front of my boat, so they have to shoot the company to kill them and then charge on the boat after. So like I didn't take any mortal wounds, so I just take the melee attack of the dragon. That's why I still alive. And with my gunner with the ward save, like it's really it's really helping like to stay packing with like all the boat because it gives ward save when you're 3 inches from each other from the gunner. So screening is like, very important for Kharadron because if I've got hit by like the shooting, like it was finished. I cannot resist like that much new mortal wounds.
Yeah, and what's cool about KO is as well is the fact that look, screening is important for everyone, and I think that's probably one thing that people forgot about in third edition.
Yeah,
They're like, I'm going to put all of my points into the elite bodies, and then when Einjaws comes along and charges you in the face, you've got nothing to absorb. It's always the good stuff that takes the damage.
yeah.
But when I screen with any other faction, I've got to make real movement decisions. If I put my stuff at the back of the board to make your charge harder,
You won't
it
do
now makes it
anything.
hard.
Yeah.
Well, it's harder for me to now get up the board, and it's harder for me to go score objectives. But again, because of KO and the ability
You
to fly
teleport, so
high
it's
and
fine.
move,
I take
exactly.
all of my armies and like I only let like the 2 screen I have behind. They're running from the objective and all the other stuff fly high, go where I want, and like it's
Yeah,
why I can do another turn for the adversary in the first turn. Like if he's
yeah.
too far away, he just won't do anything.
You've got some really good tools, and again, I keep talking about it does take you as a KO player to really think about your army, and it's going to take a steep learning curve for some people in order to get the hang of it, because it's all about those micro decisions that you're making through the game and picking up a list, especially a KO list. It doesn't really start making sense until you've really played it properly, because I look at this and go, well, I've only got X amount of bodies. I don't score a lot of objectives. I don't have a lot of rend. How on earth do I win? But that kind of leads me to some of the abilities, right? Which is obviously your Aether-gold, and I'll talk about your Aether-gold in a minute. And I want to know how you use Aether-gold. But in the last month or so, there was a White Dwarf update to Kharadron Overlords. KO got a grand strategy. You got 3 new battle tactics and 2 new battalions. So as a KO player, let's start at the top. The grand strategy. So you got 1 new grand strategy to choose from. When the battle ends, you complete the grand strategy if no unit in your army has a share of Aether-gold that has not been spent, and at least 1 share of Aether-gold has been spent by friendly units every battle round. What's your thoughts?
I'm never gonna take that one because like there's other grand strategy way easier to do. I'm always picking all the line because with my army I got my frigates in the battle line, so it's pretty hard to take this one down. And with the grand strategy that they got, you can only spend Ether gold 1 per phase. So like you cannot do all of them in the first turn. So it's hard to like spend all of them um, for the game. Like so, I don't think it's a great grand strategy to take. Like, but it's hard to play compared to some basic one that a common one that everyone can take. So I'm just gonna take the common one. It's easier to make. So.
What if in the next general's handbook there isn't as easy? Like hold the line is probably the easiest one
Yeah,
to have, and
for
everyone defaults to hold the line.
yeah,
What if it's gone? Let's say it's gone, and the battle tactics next year are much harder. Would you? Obviously, it's hard to say what you would take. We don't know what the new grand
yeah.
strategies will be, but if you did this, how likely would it be to score that grand strategy? Or would you need to fundamentally retweak your list where you get less Aether-gold, or the way you use Aether-gold would fundamentally change?
I think the way we need to spend the gold need to change because the fact that you're locked to just using one integral per phase is pretty hard. Like when you compare it to Luminette, that they can use multiple on the same phase. Like why cannot I do the same? And
Hmm.
even the integral, like I just couldn't do triumph on them. Like it's not like before where I can do +1 to hit, +1 to wound, +1 to save. Now it's just a triumph. So it's lock you from a lot of things because I'm only using +1 to wound like most of the time. Um, sometime on my hero with like any other book, like I got some new one, but after that, like I think it's rerolling charge with another gold. Like it's not. I have a lot of CPs anyway, so I can just take that one instead. So
Yeah.
I think they need to change the way this like Aether-gold go works, because even like if you take balloon for having an Aether-gold, you need to be 10 in your unit or be a boat. But
Mhm.
like for now, you cannot just take 9 balloon, so they're
Yeah, you
never gonna be
can't.
able to get Aether-gold.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know what we're quite talking about here, if you're making your balloon boys, your sky wardens, or your
Andrew and Raggers, yeah,
Endrin riggers battle line, you can reinforce them twice, and they go up in units of 3. So
3.
3, 6, 9.
So you
You
cannot
don't
have
get eighth. You
Aether-gold.
can't get them to 12 like you used to in the previous edition. So
Mm,
that kind of sucks a little.
yeah, so I think they need to change something about the Aether-gold, like just something that make more sense.
Before I get to battle tactics, Gator Ailes has asked a question I wouldn't mind bringing up. Is Kharadron Overlords a complicated army for a new player in AOS?
Mm, it's I think it's hard, but if you can learn fast what the other army is doing, you still can play that one because like I said, like Karajan, you need to know what the other army is doing and what character do it, and you need to snipe them down. If you know that, even if you're starting, like you're gonna be fine with Karajan. You still not be like full potential like for the movement and this, but you get like most of it right. So I think it's a hard army, but you can try it, and if you can learn rapidly, you're gonna be fine with it.
My advice would, and look, if you're new to Age of Sigmar and this is the army you love, absolutely run it. I don't want to stop you from buying models. You do you. It's a great army, especially if you love this kind of aesthetic. If I was making a personal recommendation, I'd probably say KO is maybe your second army. Pick up an
Yeah,
army, buy a start collecting box, or one of the one of the Soul Wars or Dominion or some type of like generic faction. Start first, learn the fundamentals of the game, and then pick up KO. So that'd probably be my. And it's not nothing about specific about KO. There's just a lot of nuance, and probably makes it a little bit harder for the newer player because you'll lose, and you won't know why you lost, and it's hard to then kind of like improve because you're like, what did I do? It's all about those little decisions you make.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like
Anything
as a
else
second
you'd add?
army, like you need to like learn the normal victory, and then you got to add a bunch of new rules just for KO. So like starting with like another army, like an easier one, like then after you can add it, and you have more knowledge on the game, so it's gonna be easier to do it. So
Speaking of easier, what about these battle tactics? They look much easier than the grand strategy. So you got 3 battle tactics. You got bombing run, which pick one enemy unit. You complete it if the unit is destroyed by the bomb racks ability, which is obviously tied to your boats. You've got the mobilizing of the fleet. So you cannot pick this battle tactic in the first battle round. Interesting that it's restricted. But you pick 3 friendly units on the table. You complete it if they are all garrisoned within a sky vessel. And then finally, you got boots on the ground. So pick 3 units in a garrison of a sky vessel, and you complete it if those are all on the battlefield and wholly within enemy territory. So are they all achievable? Do you use them all?
I use
What are your
only
thoughts on the battle tactics?
I only used 2 of them. I never used the first one because the bomb rack only did D3 mortal wounds. So to kill someone with that, like it's pretty hard. You need like weaken the unit to like 1 model and then use the rack. So I never use that. It's way too hard to use it. But the 2 other one, I always use them because they're very easy to do as a KO. I always use the mobilize the fleet first. So like I have 4 heroes on my boat. So like I only got my 3. So I take my boat, put it in the territories. I cannot do it in the first turn, but I can second turn if I don't have my boat. Like I'm game over. So I most of the time I still have my ironclads. I do this one, and then next turn I can just take the unit in and disembark them. So that's 2 very easy battle tactics to make.
So
And
on
now,
average, mobilize the fleet would be like a turn 2,
yeah, that's it.
and boots on the ground turn 3.
Or when you need to, like you can, if you think you're winning, you can like keep it like as the last one, because you don't need any adversary like to make it. Like you can have like table live and then do this one. So most of the time, like first turn, I do Savage Spirit to bring my unit in the adversary territories, then mobilize the fleet, and then I can do Broken Ranks, Conquest, or something like that, like pretty easy one, and I'm finishing with Boots of the Ground. Cause
Yeah, good call out, by the way, on the bombing run, because it sounds achievable, but then you've got a lot of randomization on the bomb rack. So if you find yourself in a position and you do find like there's 1 model in a unit and it's low risk, yeah, you might pull that down. But if you've got multi-wound, or even like you're at risk, obviously, of a redeploy. So
yeah,
like
and even if they're 1 model, you can still miss the bomb rack, because like on our Ironclad, it's yes,
sure.
it's 2 up, but on the Gunner, it's 4 up. So it's weirder to miss it. Like 1 shot of the 2. So to make a tactic like a 50% chance to make it, I just don't try it. And
Yeah, if you find yourself in a good position and you got like an ironclad, as you said, and it's low risk, yeah, I
yeah,
mean like that, and there's like
you
1
can,
model, it's
but it's at the start of the hero, so that's the thing. Like most of the time, there won't be 1 unit alone at the start of the hero phase, so you need to shoot at him and pray that he will stay 1 model. So like it's a lot of thing to take in consideration.
I'm glad you mentioned that last part. You've got to hope that they stay 1 model,
Yep.
because if you pick that against me and I've got 1 model on a unit objective or anyway, it's like I knew like, right, I'm going to pull this down with the a charging bomb rack. That is a prime candidate for me to go rally. As
Yep.
long as it's not in combat, I'm going to rally that and I'm going to bring it back, which then can be an easy deny. So
Yep.
keep that one in mind.
It's a very hard one to make. So most of the time, I just don't use it. They one way more easy to make.
What about the 2 new battalions? You've got 2 match play battalions. People seem to get confused sometimes of, are these match play legal? Yes, they are. So you can run them at tournaments, and they don't get FAQ'd. So you don't have to wait for GW to FAQ them. They are, use them now. So you got 2 of them. You got the Sky Iron Attack Squadron, and then the Gunstock Escort Wing. So very boat heavy. Obviously 2 of them. So what's that? The second one is
the first one is 2 frigates, and the second one is 2 gunroller. I'm not using them because I just don't play 2 of those boats. I just play 1 of these each. So, and the bonus they give, like I prefer to have my warlords and a battle regiment than this one, and I have to take another boat. And the boats are not doing that much damage. Like the frigates, it cut a lot, but it's mostly for transporting things more than like shooting. So I'm just not using.
Yeah,
I'm just not using them at all.
no, that's cool. And we'll get. I'm going to get to your list literally in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to stop teasing the chat, and we'll get to your list. And it's a nice segue. But before we get there, Aether-gold, we can't move off it before acknowledging our primary resource.
Yeah.
How do you use Aether-gold? When do you use Aether-gold? What are the types of units that you want to use Aether-gold on?
With the list I'm running now, I'm mostly using it on like the first one when my ironclads. When I need to kill something like it, I'm gonna use +1 to wounds, and I'll attack on him. So it's 2s and 2s. If the target is flying, I can roll in 1 to it. So like it's pretty like you're gonna kill what you have. But if there's a lot of save, like you won't, but most of the time, like it's do a lot of damage with this one. And then after I'm gonna use it like on my thunderers, like my second big units, because I'm gonna use them +1 to wound 2. And if there's still the match going, I have my one with my chemist that rerolling 1s to wound 2. So and that's the most I use them, because the other one like is not that useful. Maybe with the riggers when the boat get killed can like make an explosion, but it's like you don't want your icon to die, so I'm not using that a lot. So it's mostly +1 to wounds I'm using.
Yeah, like traditionally, even before it changed to the Triumph, it was always about getting the most out of your shooting and consistency from your shooting, as opposed to, I mean, there's some nice reliability, but yeah.
Before I was playing with +1 save though, because to make sure the boat stay alive. Yeah, I never used +1 to wound because I already had enough damage when there was not a lot of saves, so I don't need +1 to wound, and I use it defensively to keep my boat alive. But now I don't have these possibilities, so maybe I will just use it to +1 to wound.
All right, I'm gonna stop teasing the chat, and I'm gonna bring up your Grand Clash list. So this is the list that you went 4-1 on recently. I think it was in April. Grand Clash, 110 odd players. Went 4-1, came 8th out of the 110 odd players. I think it was like 114 in the end.
Yeah, and 116. Yeah.
100, big event, especially in this COVID kind of world we're living in. But you have gone Barrack Zilfin. So people listening to the podcast, you may not be able to see this, but you've got Barrack Zilfin, you've gone the Aether Chemist, which is the general with the command trait collector, the artifact spell in the bottle, which is obviously the title of the show.
Yeah.
Shout out to Christina Aguilera. I thought I'd throw that one in. You've got the navigator with a flare pistol. You've got an admiral with the staff of binocular optimization. You've also got the Endron Master. What's the Endron? Is it multiple
the one on foot.
Endron Masters?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the one on foot. Yeah.
For a minute, I'm like, what the hell is an Endron harness? Like, what?
Yeah, they got difficult name. Yeah.
You've then got your 2 units of Arcanaut companies, and you've got your Skypike, your Skyhook, and your volley guns. You've gone your frigate. You've got yourself a unit of 3 engine riggers, a Grundstock gun hauler. You've got yourself some thunderers, and then you've also got an ironclad with the warp lightning vortex. So for anyone who's picking up KO and you're wondering how on earth did you get the warp lightning vortex, the artifact spell in the bottle allows you to pick a endless spell. Obviously, you got to pay for it, but you got to pick any endless spell in Age of Sigmar. So you've gone and chose the Skaven one. Although who knows what the new Skaven battle tome, assuming there's one coming,
maybe it will change.
how that will change.
Yeah, we'll see then. But the vortex is like a big part of these armies. It's less strong than before. Like you need to put it 1 inches away from everyone around it, so it's harder to place down. But instead of like placing down in the army of the adversary, I'm trying now to block the army. So I'm going 2 vortex on the line and 1 other there. So it makes that they cannot run, they cannot fly either, and it still take mortal wounds. And most of the time, like they don't want to go in the vortex. So I can like go on the side, put the vortex there, and then it will create a barrier between me and the other armies.
Before I get you to explain the list, you've got Battle Regiment and Warlord. So you've got 2 battalions with an extra artifact. List comes in at 1980. Your 5 drops, and this one is 110 wounds, which is actually quite a decent amount of wounds for a KO army.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this list. What are you trying to achieve? Who are the opponents you're most worried about when you go to Grand Clash? Like, what are you trying to build to kind of counter? And how does it all work? Like, what's the synergies, and how does this all kind of tie together and create this 4-in-1 rule?
Yeah, so like I said, the vortex is like my main defensive abilities in my army. So like I fly high with my ironclad. You got like all 4 hero in the ironclads, and I put my the thunderers in the frigates. Sometime I put my company in my ironclads too, but most of the time they just there to screen first turn. To like they just I'm go in the corner, put my ironclad, my company be like ahead of them, just like don't get hit by anything. First turn I run my company to the objectives, and I take all the thing because 4 was on the boat and the balloon boys go with the boat. I go in a hero phase, so I can put then my vortex that protects me, and then I can just put my bow in behind the vortexes, away from the vortex, and like now I shoot at the enemy. I'm trying to shoot like the important targets, and when I need to kill like a big unit, I'm using like the flare pistol on the navigator. What that does, when I get a hit with the navigators, I can rerolling hits of all of my armies on the guys. So when I need to kill someone like very important, I shoot that all rerolling to it, and I'm just all shooting at them. And with the new admiral now, I can now put -1 round on the thunder, so they go up to -2. Or when I go up against a Guo or something with a good ward save, I'm just taking it down out, and it's less dice that the opponent can to save his army. So that's my battle plan, and most of the time I go second, to be able to maybe get a double turn. And when I got a double turn, like I just clean up the rest. Most of the time, it's finished by them.
And for anyone who hasn't looked at, and I want to get back to your list, in a minute. I'll let you have a sip of drink. But you are Barak Zilfin, which gives you a whole bunch of things. One being so that artifact, specifically the staff,
Yep.
that is a Barak Zilfin artifact. And you've obviously gone Warlord to get the extra artifact, which is how you got Spell in the Bottle. You've got a Kharadron code as well, which allows you to, it actually specifically gives you the article, the amendment, and the footnote. So it's kind of defined. Sorry, what were you going to say something?
Yeah, and with my chemist, like general, I got collectors to get a 3rd artifact. That's why I can get 3 with just 1 warlord.
So that's coming through from the collector command trait.
Yeah,
So why that command trait, not another command trait?
Because it gives 1 more artifact, and I can like then take the spell bottle and the flare gun. Because otherwise, I just take the spell bottle and the staff. The staff is just +1 to it on 1 profile of this gun, so not that good. So with 3 artifact, I can take the flare gun, and then gun what I want to kill.
And one of the cool things as well that you've done is you've avoided. So Barak Zilfin has a command trait specifically locked to the faction. A lot of the older books had that, but
Yeah,
you've got a workaround here because the command trait is only locked if
for
your
Unreal.
general, yes, if your
Yeah,
general is
so
an
I just
Archon or
don't use him.
Admiral.
Yeah, so I just and it's not a good. It's okay. It's like when I spend a CP on a 5 up, I can get a new one, but I'll already have a lot of CP, so I don't need any more.
Yeah.
So I just don't take it, and I prefer collector to that 3 artifacts.
Question from the chat was, why did you choose the Endron harness and not like, let's say, a second navigator? What was some of the thinking there between that choice?
The Iron Master can heal 3 wounds on the Ironclads. So like per turn, it's healing 4 wounds with this one and the base ability of the Ironclads. So most of the time I can like get away from like if I'm an 8 wound taken, I cannot fly high. So with 4 wounds, I go up to 4 and then I can fly high. So I'm mostly taking him for the healing, and in close combat, he do mortal wound on 6 to it. He do D2 mortal wounds, and he's hitting okay in close combat. So even if I have a mostly shooting army, if there's like a 1 hero with a couple wound left, I can charge him with my ironclads with all of my hero, and most of the time I'm just killing this 1 hero that I left like with a couple wound left.
How do you use the garrisoning with your troops? Like, are you tying your engine riggers against a particular boat? Where are your Arcanaut company going, and your Thunderers? Like, what's the combinations you're putting here, and why are you doing it the way that you do it?
So my riggers go with my ironclads. So if it get wounded, you can like heal them because they got an ability on a 4 up. All model on a 4 up they just heal 1 wound for the bout. So they're just more healing for him. The gondoler mostly go with the ironclads to give him 6+ ward save. Um, both of my company mostly stay on the ground to screen for the first turn, and then with Barracks Elfin, I'm always running in 6. So they just run to the objective. So it's 10 inches, and in the deployment I make sure that at least one model is within 10 of the objective to get it with one model. And my thunderers are all of my frigates. So I got 2 threads. I got the ironclad with all the hero and the thunderers with the frigates. So I can go to 2 sides, and they have to choose one to go to.
And by the way, just to call out one of the amendments, so you mentioned that your run rolls are always 6. That's not a command point. That
No, no,
is
like
don't argue with the winds, which
it's
is
all of my armies always running 6, and I got rerolling ones to hit if my boats shoot flying targets.
so where do you spend your command points then? So if you don't have to spend them on, let's say, the run roll or where do you find you're spending most of them?
I'm mostly using auto attack at my ironclads, and I can use unleash L2, auto defense, and when I can use the redeployment to like make an harder charge for the enemy. Like if he move up to like 8 inches from the boat, then I redeploy to like it's a very hard charge to make, or he just won't be able to. But I never redeploy when he's at 3 inches away, so I prefer then to just Ali shell, adult defense, and stay in combat because I can just fly high next turn.
So how does this list win? Like, if I'm looking at this going, how on earth does it work? And intellectually, I understand I've got a bunch of boats, I've got a bunch of troops, I'm going to move them around the board, I'm going to shoot some things. They're either going to work in power pairs and like pull something important down, or spread across the board and kind of take on objectives, or try to harass a particular people. But is there any units here that are critical to your success, or are there things that maybe people don't appreciate that maybe has given you like real MVP type activity when you've actually put them on the table?
The chemist with the spell in a bottle, because when you use a spell, you cannot do anything to dispel it. It just goes. So if you want to beat a Kharadron and you got one guy to kill, I'd say this one is the one because it killing me the chemist with the vortex, so I cannot use them, and it's a big part of my DPS and defensive abilities. So that's a pretty important one. And my
So
ironclad. Yeah, what were you saying?
No. Talk about your ironclad. I just want to ask you something. I almost want to counter or challenge what you said around the artifact. I've just got a question about it. But tell me more about the ironclad.
Yeah, so the Ironclad, like the fact that it can move in hero phase and then move in the movement phase, it makes like screening very hard because I can go up to 3 inches from your screen, and then I'm shooting at 12 inches. So most of the deployment are 12-inch wide deployment. So like it's very hard to like screen totally all of your important stuff.
And I imagine it doesn't mean you have to you don't have to fly high with it because you've
No,
got
no,
so much
you can fly
movement.
high in hero phase, and then you can just do no more move,
Of
like
course.
do move closer. Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you about was the spell in the bottle, because you mentioned it was obviously a really good ability. You obviously paying a lot of points for the spell in the bottle, 90 points plus an artifact choice to get it right. But there's a lot more unbinding and dispelling in the game right now. Yes, when you want to put it on the table, I can't do anything about it. It's automatically cast. But once it's on the table, there is so many, like, there's heroic actions to make a non-wizard be able to unbind. There are probably a fair amount of powerful wizards in the game right now. Aren't you just paying for like a one shot endless spell? Because if I remove it, then you can't put it back on the table.
No, I can, but it's still 9 to dispel. So like if you don't have a powerful wizard, like a normal one, it's pretty hard to dispel them. But like if you got like a tech list or something like that, it's just a one use thing. But if I can double the turn, I get 3 use out of it because it's hero phase, movement, and then movement. So you
Hmm.
can still do 3d2 mortal wounds to multiple unit. So even if it's a one time thing, it's still a lot of damage. And most of the game it just stay there because it's hard to dispel and they're missing it.
And that was going to be one of the things I was going to lead to, is the fact that because the Warp Lightning Vortex is hard to cast, which makes it hard to unbind, that makes it a good choice compared to
Yeah.
maybe an endless spell that has a casting value of 4 or 6, where it is easy to unbind. So you're getting more value, and you're probably pulling away resources because your opponent is trying to dispel it.
So he
That's
loses
taking up
one
a
cast.
cast, that's taking up a heroic action just to try to get rid of it. That is very unlikely unless you get some good bonuses.
Yeah. So that's why I take this one because there's the comet from the Stormcast. It's similar to the Vortex, like it deal AoE damage, but I think it's like on a 6 to cast. So it's only 7 to dispel. It's way easier. So with the Vortex and 9 to dispel, if you don't got any bonus, like most likely you will not dispel it. So that's why.
And I was just going to say, those wizards that have a bonus normally have some critical spells that they want to cast anyway. So
Yeah.
again, you're sacrificing one of your casts to get rid of it.
Yes, most of the time they just go around it, but like that's why I place it strategically. When I place it, I like place it on an objective, but I let me a space to go on my side on the objective and block all of the other side for the adversary. So he cannot go on objective unless he take damage, but I will be fine on my side, the objective. That's
Is
like
it?
why I use it.
Is there any other endless spells that you would consider, or do you think just Warp Lightning Vortex for KO is just leaps and bounds in front of the other options? Like, I know back in the ye old day, there was like, Bullfire Taurus. People used to love the ability to fight last, and there's a whole bunch of endless spells people would pull from factions. The Blood Snake from Marath from the Daughters of Cain is a good one. There's a lot of good endless spells.
Yeah, but I'm thinking for now it's still the Vortex is like I think the best one because it a lot of targets. It make them not can be able to run, not fly either. So it does damage and it like make the guys like he cannot go in there. Like
Yeah.
if a unit can run and charge, he cannot run. So and most of the time they don't have like a eye movement. Um, so like Beast of Chaos for example, they move 4 inches plus they run and then they charge. But with the Vortex, they don't only go 4 inches. I'm fine like where I'm at. Like I just stay way over them. They won't get to me.
Yeah, you're playing this as a defensive tool as much as an offensive tool. It's not like you're looking for the
Yep.
most amount of damage,
Right.
but you're being able to create this no-fly zone essentially, where if you're going to go in here, you're going to reduce your movement, get some damage,
Yep.
and it's going to be hard to stay on. And especially if you drop it on an objective, it's a good call out. Is there anything else that you would mention about this particular list?
I don't think so. Like, just stick together with the boat for the ward saves, and the important thing is like it's in the deployment. Most of the time, I'm just corner camping. I put 2 companies ahead of my guys, and so like the first turn of the adversary he's just gonna put his unit on the objective, and he's not doing any damage to me. So then, by turn, I pick one side. I should from this one.
So when you say corner camping, for someone who maybe doesn't know that language, what does that mean, and how do you do it?
Okay, so corner camping, like I go if the map is there, you got your deployment there and there too. I go for like this way if the enemy is there. So it's a long distance to go for taking my guys on. Um, and I just put my boat like in the corner of the table, and the company just ahead of them like this, and the boat there. So like he cannot go to the boat unless he passed through my company first. So that's what I mean by corner camping is.
And you use both of the corners in your deployment zone,
It
assuming like
depends
in the
on the armies. Like I got 5 drops, so a lot of time like big army have like 1 or 2 drops. So they drop it, and I take the corner farthest away from the army. So I just don't have anything to worry about if they let me. If they want to play first.
obviously assuming the battle plan and all of that
Yeah.
type of stuff, but on average, that's good. No, I appreciate it, because again, most people would traditionally like deploy on the middle of the board. They create a little bubble. They might deploy on the line. Corner camping and putting them in the corner, especially because you've got the hide movement, really does allow you to play the board in an army that doesn't have to worry about the movement phase.
Yeah.
But if I did it with my Cities of Sigmar, it's like the trek to Mordor to try to get myself back onto
They
an
won't do
objective.
anything. Yeah.
It'll take me years to get onto an objective. So it's great to kind of, especially if your opponent can like turn 1 charge you, or has really high movement, or
Like the
long
Iron
threat
Jaws.
ranges. Yeah, Iron Jaws, perfect example. Beastclaw Raiders can do it. There's a whole bunch of factions that can be quite fast. Or you want to kind of avoid like long strikes or bow snakes. They've only got like a 24-inch threat range, or if you pop your models in the corner and they're a 1-drop because they want to dictate who goes first, well, where you can go to avoid those types of threats. Quick questions from the chat, and then I'll move to the second list. Raphael, 2 questions. Would you normally play the Thunder as inside the frigate? And then the second part of the question is, and would you normally play the company in Ironclads, and then when you make the move in the hero phase, drop them close to the enemy?
Yeah. So for the Thunderers, they are inside the frigates because it make a protection for them. Like they +1 save and -1 to it. So and they can go with the rest of my armies. And for the company, depends really on the army I have in front of me. If they can make it first turn, charge me, put both company on the ground to screen me with 2 units. But if like it's an army that like won't make it, like a Nurgle one, I'm gonna take the company in the boat. I'm gonna drop in a neuro phase, and then in movement, I just screen again with my company, so they cannot charge the boat. So like that's what I do there. It always depend on the deployment. Depend on what the other one's playing. You need to take that in consideration always.
Yeah, and think about the threats. Think about, I think that's what I'm hearing, right? Is like, what can you do if you're going to take priority? Let's say I'm a 1-drop, you're a 5 drops. Then do you want to go first? Do you want to go second? Are there key spells that you want to get off, or shooting targets? And what does my opponent want to do? And he kind of goes back to what Loïc said very early on. Is understanding KO. A lot of it is understanding what your opponent does and what the linchpins are and what my opponent wants to do, in order for me to counter respond to them. So if they want to charge me early, or if they want to give away first turn, so I move up the board and then more of my army's in range for shooting or magic or combat, then I can play that to my strengths and my micro decisions on the table of where I move, where I redeploy, what I put into my boats, and maybe what objectives I prioritize.
Yep. I'm I never take all objective first turn because you're spreading out too much. Most of the time, when there's three objective, it's like most of the time it's 1 points for one, two, and then more. So I never take three of them. I just take two. I put one guy on one, and all of them are army on the one. So if you want to come at me, is gonna take a initial from my ironclads because I'm gonna stay 6 inches from each figure is my army, so he's gonna have to charge the screen first, and he's gonna still get shot by the ironclads.
Yeah, I think that's one really good call out, and I'll get to your second list in a minute. Is just the fact that KO should not split up. Like
Mm,
you, and not until like later in the game. Like
yeah,
come turn 3, turn 4, when you've got control of the board. Yeah, then go split out and go objective hunting and character hunting and things. And but in those first couple of turns, you really want to concentrate your shooting and your power projection to just pull down those key threats, and then you can start playing off the board control. That's
yeah. Because
because
if
you
you
won't win
start,
the objectives by
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. Because I don't have a lot of guys, so if I put like one boat in the corner, it's only two models, so you won't take an objective from five normal guys. So I just don't do it. I stay on one and put a little bit of pressure on the second one.
Yeah. It's just like take it down, move along, take it down, move along. But this is your second list. This is something that you've kind of started practicing with. This is
Yeah,
almost some thinking post clash,
yeah.
and
I
there's
never
some
played this one yet. But like in the clash, I went against Kragnos and a dragon, and it was hard to go through them. I need the double turn to take them down, so I'm gonna try with this one. And there's a lot more of balloon boys, and they got drill cannons, which is one shot with -3 run D3 damage. So like that's comparison thing for like my no run of all my armies. In this one, I got 7 shot of the drill cannon, and with the admirals, I can upgrade my pack of 9 with another +1 to run. So I can go 3 shot -4 and 18 shot from the volley guns -2. So I feel like I'm gonna get less presence on the board, but I can shoot more and I can bring them almost all of them, except for the pack of 9 Skywarden. I can bring them with the boat. So and the pack of Skywarden just stay behind and put pressure from 24 inch away. That's the
can,
thing, because I can get 7 people from each boat when I fly high. So that's pretty much all of my balloons.
can those 9 Sky Wardens hitch a ride with the Ironclad, or is
No,
it
they
too
cannot.
not enough?
I can just take 7 maximum. So they need to be, but they go 12 inches and they can shoot at 24. So they got a 36-inch threat range. So it's still pretty good. Like they can shoot anything they want. Mm.
So you mentioned that you've got less board presence because you're right. There's no thunderers. There's no just generic chaff here.
Yeah.
You've gone much more elite with your engine riggers and your sky wardens. So what made the trade? So yes, Kragnos, dragons. There's a few things that maybe you need a bit more power projection, a few more rend, those types of things. But you trade off the bodies, the screens especially. You've got no
I still
screens
got
for
strings.
Kragnos.
It's the skyward on the screen, the 3-1,
That
because I can get 1 inch from each other. So it's almost as much distance as 10 companies online, and it's just 5 1 points. So it's not. It's still a good screen, and they can shoot from 24 inch away and move 12 inches. So like when I got my company and I need to go to the objective, I need to run with them, so I cannot shoot. With these one, I can go further and then shoot still with the guys. So I think it will be best, but I will have less model to contest objective. So I need to kill what on the objective to get it first. Like I cannot
so
bring 10 people on it.
Yeah, you definitely don't have those 10 bodies to put on the objectives, and your Sky Wardens and your Engine Riggers aren't counting as anything extra. I mean, they've got 2 wounds each, but they're only counting as one model
Yeah,
on the objective. So, again, it goes back to you need to shoot things off and get it off quickly in order to claim objectives.
yeah. But they got a lot more mobility with all this one. They can all take a ride on the boat, so I can move around like way easier with this one. I feel like. Um, so I'm gonna test this one. I never tested, so I don't know if it's a good one. But
But what you're building here, Loïc, is you're going for better movement.
Yep.
You've got a bit more flexibility because you're not so reliant on the boats.
Mhm.
You're getting higher damage output potentially,
Yep.
especially like higher rend.
Yeah.
But you're trading off bodies. You're trading off. Yeah, that's what you're
Yeah.
trading off.
And wounds in total. I got I think 16 less wound than the other one.
Yeah.
But like in my games, I never like need 10 guys to take an objective from someone else. I always kill them, so I don't need that much. So it's just that it's gonna be easier for him to take it back. But that's not too bad. Like I can live with that if I kill what's thereafter. So that's
I
my
do
way of
want.
thinking.
I do wonder if with Nighthaunt coming and the popularity of these one wound, ignoring rend type models, if maybe you will still need to have some type of 10 troop type of thunderers or something like that. I don't know. Like I guess we're not going to know. Like we don't
Yeah,
know one. Like Nighthaunt's looking really good, but will they be popular? Will people want
yeah,
to
that's
play
it.
it?
Because they're not
So
there's not gonna be all night on anyway. And still, they with the Dread Enchant can do mortal wounds too. So even if they're not the range is not useful on a 6-up, it's 3 mortal wounds still. And it deal 9 Skywarden deals as much damage than the Thunderers, and I'd say more damage, and it's pretty much the same price. Skywarden 3015 and the Thunderers 270, but like they do the Thunderers is 22 shots, 3s and 4s -1, and they are 18 4s and 4s plus 3 plus 6 other little pistol. So it's more shot, but they're not on the boat, so they're weaker, and they're gonna be. If I go against a shooting list, I feel like it's gonna be harder with these one because they all have +1 save from cover and -1 to it.
what about the dirigible suit? You've got your engine master with that's one difference, right? You had the harness
Yep.
before, now we've got the dirigible. What's the switch? Why the switch? And what does the dirigible suit bring that you didn't have in the last list?
He makes the Balloon Boys as a battle line. So if I want to get a list full of Balloon Boys, I need him in my list. Um, he's pretty good with but I need to make him my general. So I'm losing a collector on my chemist. So I only have 2 artifact, and on this one I'm losing the flare gun. So that's like what I'm gonna see if the flare gun can be take out and I still can do good. But with the Android Master, he got Grudge Bearers, and I can choose one hero and deal double damage with this one. So he's gonna be able to kill like one hero at turn 1. One hero that I don't want to stay alive, and he's gonna delete him.
Which is kind of where we're at right now. We're focused on killing heroes, killing
Yeah.
monsters, killing high wound, high armor saved, ward saved. Very concentrated power. And again, I keep bringing up the upcoming General's Handbook because you may be listening to this 3 months from recording time, and we are in a much more battle line focused. Less armor saved, less hero hammer, maybe more of those 5 wound heroes running on the board as opposed to those 10 plus wound heroes. And who knows what's coming, what type of incentives, what type of things that are going to come in the realms. And I'm excited, especially I think it may play a bit more into KO strengths, that maybe at least the first 6 months has really been an anti KO meta. It's been really tough for you. So again, kudos for going top 10 at a 116 odd player event.
Right, thank you. Yeah, we are the save staking, so I hope it kind of goes away because even though it's cool like to resist the Kharadron. Like I feel like when you go against a Kharadron, like in V2, and you got the army squash like first turn, it's very bad. But like now it's like the other way around. Like I cannot do thing against Circuit's armies, and it's very hard like to make a game work against some matchups.
Is there any allies that you would consider bringing in? Because one of your allies is Fire Slayers, right?
Yeah.
And Fire Slayers have gotten some, and I think probably one other weakness we didn't talk about is the fact that you're not very good in combat. You're not a very good close combat army. And like I know when I try to build a few Endrin Riggers, in my because I was bringing in some of the cities of Sigma, and I played Tempest Die, which means 1 in every 4 can be KO. I was trying to build out a couple of combat-y type Endrin Riggers that would drop from the gun hauler, shoot, then charge. But I was just really underwhelmed with the combat output of KO. Would you bring in Fire Slayers? Would you bring in some long strikes or some type of other? Because what do you got? Dispossessed, Fire Slayers, Iron Willed,
Stormcast. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. I already tried with Gotrek to like have a good personage to see what he's in the meta, so I try him. But the thing is, like, he's so slow compared to the rest of my armies. Like, all of my army can go from a corner to another, and he's going like slowly to the middle, and it take like a quarter of hour of my army that is not shooting in the first couple of turns, and that difference make it like it's way less pressure on the enemy, and I don't keep in a lot. So it will be the same for Fire Slayers. Like they're not moving fast, so even if they're tanking, they're not gonna follow the rest of my armies. The one unit I could take will be dragons, but I don't want to do them because everyone has them, and like I don't want to play that.
I was going to ask you about that because I have seen a few KO lists recently where they have been running the Storm Drake Guard, the 2 dragons, because they have the speed. They've got the mortal wounds that you're lacking a little bit. They've got some high rend combat,
and they're talking a lot. Yeah, but
they complement you so well.
Yeah, but I just don't like to play with this. Not like right now. Maybe when they get nerfed, I'll try them. But like, I just don't want to have this unit in my armies.
Maybe you can find like a 3D sculpt of a cogsmith type of dragon where it's maybe more metallic in here, more.
It's not like the look of the unit. It's a little bit more like the unit in itself. Like when you play that one, like you're a sweat. Like when you play dragon, like I don't like playing dragons. Like it's got everything on this Watch Scroll, so it's like I just don't want to play this model.
No, that's fine. And like, I'm only giving thoughts to the people listening to this. So for some people, they might like, I'd love to have some dragons, and they'll.
I see some lists like they do well, but my choice is just not to play them. I'm fine with them. So
that's okay. Would you play Kronspine? Will you play the new incarnate of Gur? Assuming that there was.
I may try him because he's a monster, so it will bring more action that I can do, and he's quick. So like not unless Gotrek like really slow, but Kronspine can run and charge, and I think it's moving like 12 inches, so he can keep up with my armies, and maybe I'll give it a try. But I hope like it's not like Gotrek, like it's gonna be less firepower and it's just gonna go in the screen and do nothing there. That's what I'm afraid of. Like it's gonna be easy to screen.
I think the other part's going to be the fact that if you took a Kronspine in a KO list, it would be a distraction. People would focus on the Kronspine while you're moving around shooting things. So, like where do you get 400 odd points in your army? Well, I think the easy answer would be maybe you drop the Ironclad, but you lose a lot by dropping the Ironclad.
I don't think I will lose. If I get him, I think I'm just gonna go take 9 Skywarden out and €1 like I can take out. Like maybe Navigator because they don't have this flare pistol. But I will need to test like with I haven't get a game with him. Like I think it could be a good choice because it's bringing a monster and that's like more victory points I can make. So I think it could be a great one. This one.
It's a consideration. Like again, depending on how people want to build their lists, but it's another tool. Whether you want to delve into it or not, whether you want to buy it or not, obviously it's up to you. But if you are looking for some, I think this is kind of the question, right? Do I lean into my strengths or do I try to fill in the gaps of my weakness? And you're not a very good combat army, so yes, I could go into Fire Slayers, I can get into dragons, I can get into Kronspine. But that's 400 odd points that aren't going to my shooting. So, it's a trade-off. Do I want better offense, or do I want something that, I'm not very good at, but I've now got something to at least compete in that space?
Yeah, that's the choice that we made. But like with screening, like That's the thing I'm most afraid of. Like 400 point that's gonna get screened. Like it's a big loss. So you cannot screen like a Kharadron shooting. It's very hard because I'm dropping in your face, moving. So I'm like in your face first turn. Like this one can be screened, will be screened, like always. It's not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be hard to counter this.
Yeah, look, this is not the Kronspine show. I'm not like we could talk about this till the cows come home because there's a lot of cool things like you can
Yeah,
lock
yeah.
people in so they can't they can't retreat. So then you're just pew 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 when you shoot them while they're stuck there and they can't do anything with Kronspine. There's a lot of pros and cons either way, but I think we kind of made the point. If you want to lean outside of your book, there's a couple of options. Gotrek, you could do dragons, you could do Kronspine. There's a Mega Gargant if you want to bring in the Kraken Eater Mega Gargant, or you can stay native and just play to your strengths, which is shooting. But one of the things I kind of want to ask you before we start wrapping things up is, what's the key to success? You went 4-1. You've done, and you're not just a one-trick pony. I have seen your record, and you have done well previously as well with KO. But in third edition, playing with KO, what are the keys to success? How do I win? How do I make the most of my faction? Whether I run a list like yours or something different, maybe I'd run more gun haulers. I run more, I don't know, allies. How do I win?
You need to like take out the priority target first, and you need to know which one unit give which buff and kill that important buff. In a lot of armies, like there is a big hero that is getting buff, but he's getting a buff by like smaller heroes, like they are easy to get killed. So instead of killing the big one, you need to kill small little one around him, and then you can try the big one after. Because a lot of time you see this one big one and you do, oh, I'm gonna kill him, so you're gonna shoot him up, but he's so buff like you don't do anything. So it's choosing your target right. That's a key to success with Kharadron, right? I'd say, yeah.
So follow-up question then. If I'm a newer player, I haven't gone to many tournaments. How do you know what the priority target is? Like, what is it that you do to understand? Is it questions you ask your opponent? And if so, what are the questions you ask? Is it something that you do before an event? Like, how do you work out what those priority targets you might want to pull down?
For me, I just play a lot of games, so I know which cartoon is doing what. But like, if you're a beginner, I'd say like ask the one what each hero is doing, and like try to in your head like this one seems scarier, so I'm gonna get this one first. But like with practice, you're gonna know like this one is I have to get killed first, and then like I think it's a thing of practice and like looking at books and looking at videos of games to like know what army is doing what. So
Yeah, and like if you are going to a tournament, you can look at a lot of previous tournaments. Well, you can see the lists. You can go, right. Well, what are the common things? You always see like a war chanter in an Iron Jaws list. You always see sentinels in a Lumineth list. You always see Morathi, and you can start to see some of those trends that help. But yeah, I think asking good questions. You can't ask your opponent, "Hey, Loic,
which is the harder
yeah,
one to
hey,
pick.
hey, Loic, which unit should I shoot first? Hey,
Yeah,
what would make you cry more than No, but you can say like what make can you run and charge, and how do you run and charge,
yeah,
or you know what is like yeah. I mean, each army has different questions you can ask, but getting better at understanding your opponent's faction, but. And you also notice like they're always putting certain buffs on, they're always trying to cast Mystic Shield on a certain unit, or you're always trying to, certain things happening on the table.
yeah.
I dig
So
it. Oh, if you're going to say something.
no, no, I didn't.
Is there anything else you want to talk with KO? I mean, again, it's a cool army. Obviously, I think we were all like started this year, at least me, I thought Fireslayers and KO might be combined, but I was surprised that no, Fireslayer's got a natural book by itself. I thought Mike Grumdy might come in and kind of like make you all friends together, and it could be like an Auric Warclan book. I think it still might happen. I'm a bit. Well, I don't know if you saw the Warhammer previews for Warhammer Fest, but they talked a lot about Cities of Sigmar and they talked about humans, which made me think about, well, what happens to the dispossessed? What happens to the elves? Will they go home? Will they go out of the Cities of Sigmar into Grumdy, into Alariel? Will they leave the cities? And maybe that will be the trigger. Maybe you will have an Iron Claw or Orc book, which will be like Iron Jaws, Cruel Boys, Bone Splitters, Soup, and maybe you'll have that too. Fire Slayers, KO, Dispossessed, Soup.
Yeah, maybe you get that. Maybe I
Who
can
knows?
speak about like the hard matchup in KO.
Please, yeah,
Like,
do that.
there's a few one like against an Idoneth. It's very hard because the rule like you cannot shoot what you want. Like that's what you want to do with Kharadron. You need like to kill the important thing, and this rule like does not allow you to do that. So you need to play a lot more defensive. You cannot go all in and shoot what's important because you cannot do it. So like I think that's like the hardest matchup for Kharadron. And then like Thunder Lizard too, with the reducing damage by one. I got a lot of 2 damage, so it's reducing like by 50% my damage mostly. That's what I lost to in the tournament. That's like my only defeat. It was against a Thunder Lizard.
So let's go back to the Idoneth one, because that's the one that like is the big counter to you, right? You KO, you fly from the sky, and you want to shoot what you want to shoot. But the Idoneth rules, if people aren't familiar, there's a specific one called Forgotten Nightmares. And what it allows you to do is you must shoot the closest target. So from a positioning point of view, you need to be smarter on where you put your boat so you get a better choice at what you shoot. Or you're going to be forced shooting at things that they want you to shoot at. Let's say defensive eels that ignore rend, or cheap bodies of thralls and reavers where they don't care about them dying because they're protecting their sharks and their turtles. So do you have any hints for, say, Idoneth Dipkin? That's a really good call out. Thank you.
Again, these like I'm not playing all out. I'm not like teleporting all of my things first time. What I do, I just drop my vortex among them, and I go to another one side, like far away from like all the big targets, and I'm shooting like the reavers and the trolls to like for next turn that there's not anything there to stop me from shooting at it. But you cannot do anything very against internet because you're gonna shoot at what you want to shoot, so it's gonna be the all buffed guys. So you just try to kill them, and you can if it's like he's got a really good deployment, you can drop the vortex and just take out and just take the objective and let him come to you instead. And when he's gonna move, you can drop behind him and then shoot important things.
Good call out, because one of the things that Idoneth really want to do is they always try to buff up for that turn 3 where they can use the high tides to everyone strikes first. So you can use that to your advantage, knowing that they're anticipating or preparing for that. So what is it that either can I get out of combat and not be in combat for turn 3? I can be shooting or trying to reduce the damage and removing the threats of those turn 3s. Or, as you've said, use things like Spell in the Bottle, and they don't have very good casters unless they've got the Eidolon of the sea. But outside of that, like unbinding that spell is going to be very hard. So if you can drop it and you stop the turtles or the sharks flying, the eels from flying, then you can really reduce their ability. So I think you've made some good comments to an army that'll probably give KO a really hard matchup.
Is the other one. And after that, there's Stormcast, but like this one is hard matchup for pretty everyone else, so it's the same thing. Like you need to kill the crossbow if you can and survive the first turn. You need to stay very far away from all left team and hope that he won't be able to touch you. Like you cannot very do anything. You need to screen as much as you can and pray that you're gonna survive this shot.
You said your second list was in response to things like Kragnos. Have you had much experience against Kragnos and any recommendations?
I went against a Kragnos in this tournament. It was with like a trolls army, so I just killed all the trolls and left Kragnos alone. Like he just moved 10 and then can charge 3 to 6, but if you're far away, he cannot charge. So I'm just always teleporting away from him. And when he was alone, I just take all of my armies, and I shoot at him. And I try
Yeah.
to take him down. Or you can just excavate him all games long and just teleport away. But there was only 3 objectives on this one, so it was easy for him to just stay in the middle and take like 2 objectives at each of his turn. So I tried to kill him, and I got him, like, I double turn, and he wasn't lucky with his save roll, so I killed him. But I just with -1 run, and he's on a 1-up easy. Like, he's on a 2 normally, but all of defense, so he's on a 1-up, and I only have -1 run, so like you need to fade his roll so to kill him.
And sometimes the best strategy is to ignore. You know, if you don't have the tools to take down a Nagash,
just take everything else around it.
Correct. Take down everything else, because then they've only got one model that's scoring objectives. And it feels weird. You're like, I'm ignoring Nagash, I'm ignoring Archaon, I'm ignoring this 700-point, monster. But if you can't handle it, why would you try to put in all of this Ren 1 shooting into Kragnos, who will just ignore most of it, heal up potentially. And then, there's still the rest of the armies, the trolls, the gits, whatever it is scoring. So sometimes you're right. The best strategy is to ignore that big centerpiece if you can't handle it, and then focus on everything else and play the objective game. Loïc, any final comments before I bring this home? This has been awesome. It's been great to talk KO. Certainly one that I wasn't planning to do, but when I looked at the Grand Clash, I saw how well you did. I thought I'd be remiss not to invite you to talk about KO, especially for one that is certainly not in the top, traditionally in the top table. So I hope this is giving a bit of optimism and enthusiasm for the KO players, both for in 3rd edition currently, but also what's to come in KO. Especially as we go into the first season of the Next General's Handbook, and who knows what that's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, maybe we'll see more KO next time around. That would be cool, because I was alone in this tournament. I was the only KO on the 116 list, so maybe next time there will be more. And I hope so.
I dig it. Well, fingers crossed. Any shout outs, anyone you want to kind of call out, or before we wrap this up?
No, I don't have any. Unfortunately, I don't know any big person to shout out to.
Oh, mate, you have been an absolute legend. It's been awesome talking to you, Loïc. I've learned a lot. I've learned what I would have called you like Lock. I might have called you once in it. I've learned a lot, and more importantly, I'm a bit more optimistic on KO, because you're right. There's very few people, and the people who run them are dedicated diehards. They're not running it because they're the most competitive. But and I've been running my Gloomspite kits recently, and I know they're crap. I know they don't do well, but they're the toys that I want to enjoy. And I'm like, how do I make the most of it? I want to run KO. I want to play well. I don't want to lean into dragons. What's the best thing I can do? And I think you've definitely given us some great ideas how to do well with my faction. And then if I want to go into dragons, I can. I don't have to. It's my choice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you've got no shout outs, I'm going to wrap this up. You all know what to do at this point. Like, subscribe, #best KO show ever. Loïc, you've been awesome. And if people like more KO, I'd recommend they go check out the Aethercast podcast on YouTube, which is another KO specific channel who do really good work. I have no doubt that you'll be invited to go over and chat to them sometime soon. They are absolute KO legends.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
All right. Thanks for everyone who listened. Loïc, thank you so much for your insights, and I'll see you all next live stream. Thanks for sticking around until the end. I hope you found that video interesting and you walked away with a few new ideas. If you did, I would appreciate it if you hit like on the video, as well as left me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The conversation will continue over on Discord, so links down below in the episode description if you want to join the Discord